All right, as we said, Newt Gingrich has been wooing voters in Georgia this weekend. He says it's crucial for him to win the state he represented for 20 years in Congress, but he can't do it alone. His daughter has been a mainstay of his run for the GOP presidential nomination, adding campaign advisor to her other responsibilities as wife, mother, and author. Jackie Gingrich-Cushman joining me now in the studio to talk more about this. And before we talk about the strategy leading into Super Tuesday, even you kind of laughed at David Letterman there. But I have to ask, does it become kind of awkward or uncomfortable that oftentimes your dad's marriages ends up upstaging his position on issues?
Well, I think, of course I laughed because you have to laugh at things like that. The reality is we need someone at this point in our nation that can govern, that can lead, that can actually accomplish things. And my dad is the only candidate in the race, including President Barack Obama, who has balanced the national budget for 4 years in a row. He's reformed welfare, and 2/3 went back to work or got an education. So, you know, I think those kind of things you kind of laugh off and you move forward, because in the end, what people really want is the person that can do the job, and that person is my dad.
But then, given those accolades, why is it that he has not won more primary and caucuses? And that has to be a concern leading into Super Tuesday. Is your dad, Newt Gingrich, putting all his eggs in one basket, hoping that it's going to be Georgia that helps bring it home?
Well, I think he's also looking at the other southern states as well. So he does very well in conservative southern states. He did very well in South Carolina. As you know, he won that by a very big margin, by 12%. And he's going to do well in those types of states.
And the subsequent losses after South Carolina, does that kind of take, you know, the air out of the room? Does that kind of, you know, flatten that momentum that he felt he had after South Carolina?
Well, one of the things about this race, and he was laughing about this weekend when he was here in Georgia at several events, is, you know, this has been an incredible roller coaster, not just for him, but for all the candidates. If you look at who's been up, Tim Pawlenty was up, Michelle Bachmann was up, you had Governor Rick Perry, who's now endorsed Dad, he was up, Herman Cain, who not only endorsed Dad, but was with Dad this weekend, he was up. So one after the other, we've had different candidates have gone up and gone down. Dad's gone up and down twice now. This will be his third rise. And as we said, the sooner people say that his campaign is dead, the better off we'll be, because then we'll start rising very rapidly. But I think he's in a good place overall.
All right, so let's talk about how you keep that momentum. How does his strategy, you know, stay afloat?
Right.
Money, it takes a lot of money. Sheldon Adelson, Las Vegas casino owner, once again injecting big money, $11 million this time into the super PAC to keep your dad afloat. How is that money being utilized? If not for Adelson, then where would the money be generated? How could your dad keep going?
Well, I can't talk about how the super PACs could have run it, because we don't really coordinate with them at all. So I don't know.
But do benefit from.
Right. So you have to ask someone from the super PAC how they're going to spend that money. I really don't know. What I can tell you is that Dad's worked very hard. He fundraised in California. And of course, we'd like everyone to donate, to go to newt.org and to donate to help. But he's really talking and focusing on big solutions. He's talking about how to get gas down to $2.50 a gallon. When he was Speaker, it was at $1.13. The $2.50 is possible. He talks about
Can we ever see that again?
I think we can, absolutely. If we open up our resources and actually begin to drill offshore, as well as we look at the shale, we can get there. He also talks about getting unemployment down to 4.2, which is what he had. We can do this. America works best when Americans are working, and Dad can get them working again.
But does it feel as though, whether it's your dad or maybe the other GOP candidates, that they have to change their strategy on the dialogue in which to defeat a President Obama, because the economy, it seems, can't really be that focus anymore when you see a dip in the unemployment numbers. In fact, it was your dad who kind of began this discussion about the battle for the religious right. Is that what your dad, you know, Newt Gingrich wants to focus on, because the economy is no longer that item that the GOP can win on?
I would argue about that, because let me say, when you see the budget that President Obama submitted just this past week, and you see $1 trillion in debt, that is clearly still a very, very vibrant issue. We need a president who can submit a balanced budget. We need a president that cannot lower unemployment by saying those that are no longer working don't count, which is part of how the unemployment rate is going down. We need a president that says everyone that wants to work needs to be encouraged to go and look so they actually count. If you look at the actual labor participation rate, it is down. We need a president that understands it's not about the government handing out things, it's about encouraging people to help themselves.
So why does your dad, Newt Gingrich, feel like he can beat President Obama if he can't beat the GOP contenders?
I think the main reason is he provides a very, very different approach. And I'll give you an example. So right now, President Obama is talking about how he can't get things passed. They don't have a budget passed, and how he can't get his budget passed. to stand against my father, Newt Gingrich, who was Speaker, reached across the aisle, worked with President Bill Clinton to get a budget, to get a balanced budget. The only time in my lifetime we've had 4 years of a balanced budget was due to my dad and President Clinton's work. They worked together. They also worked together on welfare reform. Now, it was very hard. It took 18 months. Twice it sat on President Clinton's desk before it was finally signed the third time. But he knows how to lead. He knows how to reach across the aisle and get everyone involved.
So quickly, what are you hearing from the electorate? What are you hearing from voters that they say they interpret your dad as being the guy who can reach across the aisles and be one of concessions, or they see your dad as the one, you know, who has been crowned as kind of, you know, the guy who carries out mean politics?
Well, I think a lot of the stories you hear on the news, to be honest with you. He's not a mean guy. He's a great guy. He's got a big heart. And the reality is he does reach across the aisle. He doesn't concede. Remember, he didn't give Bill Clinton, he got a balanced budget. That's a huge deal. We would love to have a balanced budget today. That would mean that I wouldn't pass down debts to my children. That is huge for people. Additionally, with welfare reform, 2/3 of people went back to work or back to get educated. That's important. We need our workforce trained so they can get better jobs.
All right. Jackie Gingrich Cushman, always good to see you. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
Spending a little bit more time in Georgia and then moving on as well with your dad?
Absolutely. We'll be out for the debate in Arizona, but I'll be in Georgia a lot, as well as Tennessee and other places.
All right. Very good. Thanks so much.